One day, as everybody was busy with their daily life, all of a sudden, the ground started to move in all continents, that is, all over the world. Still at the beginning of this quaking, most of the magnificent buildings, glorious temples, ornamental palaces collapsed, and the majority of the big cities were devastated. A great number of mankind were trapped under the collapsed buildings and died. Continents were destroyed, sea water rushed inland. The earth was fissured, fleeing mankind in terror, and fear died in their masses. This turmoil continued for 3 days, and on the third day both of these two continents submerged, and so disappeared these two vast continents of the world, one into the depths of Pacific Ocean and the other into the Atlantic Ocean. The whole appearance of the world changed and took on its current geographical state. After the Mu period ended, the world regressed and became wild. The people who survived in the world regressed under two influences. One of these was the terrible, to them, events that occurred during the Great Cataclysm. These had a shocking effect on the nervous systems of the mankind, and made them crazy. The second was much more significant and encompassing. This was the imperative of a developmental plan, the beings in duty in this act prepared, in accordance with sublime necessities. The world had started a new cycle. This cycle was a state of the world which was most primitive, akin to amorphous and simple. This was necessary to be as such. For there were innumerable beings waiting to complete their subhuman developmental stages, and to start their stages of initial humanity. They were to come down to the world, as the most primitive humans, and to start their developments. However, the world could not be a sanctuary, a ground of evolution for these primitive beings, without going through such a revolution, and going down to simpler states which may be suitable for the needs of the newcomers. For example, had they came into a world like the evolved one of today, not only could they not evolve here, they could not have even lived. Therefore, they needed the simplest matter and also the most primitive parents in order to render the developments they need. From reasonable, more or less conscious and comprehending parents, such a horde of cannibalistic and savage children could not be born, and live among and evolve among them. This was impossible for children as well as for parents. These children were the beings who had their first step into the stage of humanity of the world life, with their simplicity, primitiveness, inexperience and lack of manner. Because of this, they were coming into the world with the need to live within all characteristics of the savagery period, which is the character of initial humanity, and of going through all refining experiences of that cycle. Thus, they needed wild matter, wild surroundings, wild plants, wild animals, and wild parents. Therefore, in accordance with the communal necessities of the general evolutionary and developmental mechanism in universe, for the ones who remained in the world, to be able to do this parenting duty automatically, they needed to regress to the states of mankind in the initial stages and to simplify the world, by subjecting to a very long evolutionary advance, starting from this simple and primitive period and by going through various developmental stages, could reach today's level and civilization of mankind, after 70,000 years. The submergence of the continents we stated above, which coincided with the closing of the previous world cycle, have been described in the books of religion by two great symbolic events. One of these is Noah's deluge, and the other is Judgment Day. According to the deluge symbol, the entire world is covered by waters, all living creatures die, except those who remained in Noah's ark and are saved. And after the waters recede, life in the world continues. The real meaning this symbol carries is that, a cycle in the world is completely closed and a new cycle of humanity is opened. As for the Judgment Day symbol, this symbol is much more encompassing than the deluge symbol. Here, a last day of the world is to arrive, and on that day, the ending of mankind will be determined. The meritorious ones will pass into higher spaces, and the ones who do not suffice will remain at tormenting places. And this clear expression of the Judgment Day symbol is the end of the world itself, which we mentioned above. Nevertheless, every religion carries the purpose of saving mankind from self-indulgence, and conveying them to the understanding of duty. To achieve this purpose, every religion has utilized every means mankind can understand, and regulated its commands accordingly. Those of mankind, who could reach the stages of religion at this cycle of the world, although they progressed further than the ones at previous stages, have not reached their current level of understanding and point of view, as of today. Besides, in their essence beings, there were excess impressions of terror belonging to the previous catastrophe, which was not so long ago. They were scrutinizing the events emotionally rather than in regard to knowledge and comprehension. They were benefiting from events on this path, and the main component of this emotional side was, as we have said, fear. This feeling, which is even valid in the majority of today's mankind, was completely prevailing over consciences back then. And religions have utilized the instincts of this fear for the development of mankind, and established some significant evolutionary automatisms by them. In short, in earlier times, mankind have started to do preparations belonging to the intuition of the knowledge of duty, only under the influence of these fears, and could more or less reach their current power of the intuition of duty. Because of this, religions have seen that symbols of the deluge and judgment day, which illustrates the submergence of the world within the qualities of reward and punishment, were necessary and beneficiary in order to give automatic understanding of the responsibility of duty to mankind, who yet lived in the reality of fear, by utilizing the fearful and sensational sides of these symbols. Thus, 2 birds had been killed with 1 stone. One of these was to give to mankind, at least the primitive intuition of a great truth, and secondly, which was more important back then, was to ensure that mankind embraced semi-comprehendingly some duties of humanity, even out of fear of punishment, and their entering into developmental harmony. We may explain this better with this small and simple example. When thunder is heard, a mother may say, "If you do not eat, Pa Thunder will get you," to her young toddler, who fusses about his dinner. Believing this and out of fear, the child immediately starts to eat, so Pa Thunder does not get him, and the purpose is served. Here the intended end is to make the child do his duty, whose necessity he has not yet comprehended, by scaring him. He does this and grows up as he benefits, and when it is time he learns about what Pa Thunder is, and then he obtains more encompassing results from this knowledge. This applies to mankind as well. Most of the time, great religious leaders have had to act as this mother did, and have accustomed mankind to the preparation of the intuition of duty through these processes which were suitable to the time and the space, by commanding goodness, honesty, altruism, self-sacrifice, and especially a great number of other forms of worship. And by means of this habituation mankind could rise to the level of today's intuition of duty. Had not religions benefited from these fearful feelings of mankind, through these symbols which have played a precious role in their development, and had they attempted to disseminate the truth among people, only with the purpose of expanding the cadre of knowledge as it is done today, they would be way too distant in rendering the feelings of duty, which mankind have just started to intuit in this state. Moreover, for the mankind of those times, it would not be possible to understand and believe the truths as they are. Today, the cycle of knowledge, logic and comprehension prevails, not the cycle of fear and feeling. Therefore, the symbols, allegorical explanations and expressions the great religions used imperatively in the past in the face of the truths, do not give the intended results regarding today's comprehension. Today, we need to state the truths openly, as they are. 4. Mankind has now reached the last maturation points of the hydrogen atom cosmos, and they put their steps on its threshold, in order to go out of the gate of this immense realm. And this threshold can be passed over only by the maturity of knowledge and comprehension. These words carry clear expressions. The hydrogen stage is the beginning of the realm of beings, which is a cosmos that follows a mechanical developmental stage, which is dark, vast and long as infinity, and which belongs to the initial stage of matter in the evolutions of spirits. This cosmos constitutes an immensely micrometric and macrometric universe, with all its spheres, solar systems, nebulae which are observed by mankind, and when we speak of the matter universe, mankind see and accept this universe only. 4. This is the cosmos in which mankind live and are bound to. Even though this cosmos seems infinite to them, it is actually a certain and small section of the universe, which contains the infinite developmental stages of matter substance, particular to the possibilities of the hydrogen atom, that we call the hydrogen stage or hydrogen cosmos. And within this hydrogen cosmos, all objects, occurrences, and realities, which are subject to the mechanisms of time and space particular to themselves, and defined as matter by mankind, are gathered. Among those ensembles, there are nebulae in uncountable numbers. These nebulae contain billions of solar systems. These systems are constituted of various matter parts, that is, planets which revolve around a nucleus, and constitute a whole with that nucleus. And one of the planets of these systems is the Earth. The world, in the point of view connected to the comprehension of the hydrogen stage, having no value as of a point within an immense matter being, is actually not small and insignificant, as it is seen within the hydrogen cosmos. The world is one of the last stations of this very long and semi-comprehending matter cosmos called the hydrogen stage. And one of the gates of this immense and infinite cosmos, which opens to a more infinite universe of sublime duty and organization, is found at the stages of humanity in the world. Therefore, now the imperative of explaining the truths below, that are needed to be known by mankind, without needing any symbols at all. Within the innumerable nebulae which constitute the developmental milieux of the hydrogen cosmos, there are billions times billions of solar systems. In every solar system there are various spheres. Around every sphere, there is a magnetic field particular to that sphere. Out of the established relations of the spheres by adapting each other in a system, the particular magnetic field synthesis of this system is put into effect. These magnetic fields of the system are in relation and at balance with each other. One of the spheres of the system revolves around itself in its place. This is called the sun or the nucleus. The others revolve around this nucleus. They are called planets. Contrary to the assumption, planets of a system are not parts which are broken off and separated from the sun of that system. They have been constituted, by the mechanisms we previously explained, separately within the nebulae, which that system is connected to, and are connected to each other by the motions that occurred, as the result of relations and equilibria of their magnetic fields, in accordance with their developmental degrees. Therefore, it is not correct to place the sun at some place, by assigning privilege to it, and to place the planets another side. The sun also takes its place within the degrees of the system, and mingles with its planets. And its degree is not superior to the planets, but below most of them. However, as we will say a little later, in the sun, the larger gathering of the beings in duty, who take a role in the management of all planets, results in giving to it an especial place within the system. So, in this way, the sun and the planets of every system are satisfactorily graded and regulated, for the needs of all beings, from the simplest to the most evolved, who are in that system to grow up. Therefore, every planet of a system has taken on the function of preparing the beings for the superior possibilities of a superior planet than itself. Besides the simple beings who evolve within a system, in all backward spheres, and especially in the sun of the system, there are powerful beings of the plan of duty, who are engaged with the duty of conducting all kinds of possibilities pertaining to the evolutions of the embodied beings, who have reached the advanced developmental stages within that system. Those beings are not embodied by the matter of those spheres. Their bodies are made up with materials gathered from higher matter milieux that do not belong to the hydrogen cosmos. In this regard, it is inappropriate to call them bodies. They themselves gather this matter in a most suitable way for executing their obligations. And they do their duties by using this subtle matter as means, among one or several spheres of that system, which are suitable to their duties. They can exist on any sphere they wish, as long as it is not considered as incarnation. For example, if needed they can visit the Sun, the Moon, Mars, or Jupiter. These are the beings of the plan of duty who execute duties in the applications of various orders of systems. Nevertheless, as we said, besides these, in the spheres there are real inhabitants of those spheres, who embodied to evolve. They are, as in the world, embodied beings who built bodies out of a sphere, and by connecting them, they use those bodies during their lives in that sphere. These beings, in all other planets of our solar system, are simpler and more backward than the ones in our world. They jump up to higher spheres after developing through uncountable embodiments in the spheres they are in, and eventually reach the most evolved sphere of their system. In our system, this evolved sphere is, as we have said, the Earth, and its most evolved being is man. So, the beings in duty in a system we have just mentioned, assist in various ways in the developments of the simple embodied beings in the systems. Eventually, the embodied beings who have completed the most evolved sphere of that system, for example the Earth in our system, enter into states of concluding the hydrogen cosmos, and acquiring the merit for higher realms. Therefore, billions of beings pass to the superior realms of duty in the universe, from the billions of evolved spheres of the billions of systems of the uncountable nebulae of the hydrogen cosmos.